For our final week of the quarter, we're looking at Bigfoot and anthropologists involved in researching and looking for Bigfoot. Take a moment to read the objectives for the lecture. Cryptozoologists study and search for creatures that have been seen and/or have been recorded in a culture's history and folklore. Dominant scientific discourses view cryptozoology as a pseudoscience. Accordingly, there's an ongoing debate over whether anthropologists who study Bigfoot are engaged in a cryptozoological kind of pseudoscience. You're all familiar with the four-field approach to American anthropology that was established by Franz Boas. Most of the anthropologists who participate in research on Bigfoot are from one of the subdisciplines of biological anthropology, also referred to as physical anthropology. Hairy bipedal creatures have been seen all over the world and going back through history. Here's a map that shows the names given to these creatures that were spotted in the various global locales. A large hairy bipedal animal has been seen in various regions of North America, the US and Canada, going back thousands of years, and it has a number of names according to the region. One scientific theory is that the Yeti and Bigfoot are very rarely seen descendants of Gigantopithecus, but this can't be proven until a specimen is found. In particular, Native American peoples throughout North America have long histories of seeing this large animal. There are pictographs, such as the one on the slide, found in Paiute territory, that is interpreted to be an illustration of Bigfoot. The Euro-American Daniel Boone, who was a legendary frontiersman, claims he shot a Bigfoot in Kentucky in the late 1700s. President Theodore Roosevelt was an adventuresome fellow who went on expeditions and hunts throughout the states. This is an account of a story about Bigfoot that a frontiersman named Bauman told him and that he recorded in his book of 1892 entitled The Wilderness Hunter. With the post-World War II economic boom, sightings of Bigfoot and perceived evidence of its existence, such as large footprints, escalated in the late 1940s and 1950s. One theory is this occurred because increased development into the forests of the Northwest in particular encroached upon the cryptid's territories. By the late 1950s, people were taking photographs and plaster castings of the large footprints found throughout specific areas of the Northwest, such as Bluff Creek in California. Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin set out on a horseback expedition to find evidence of Bigfoot in 1967 and theoretically captured a female on camera. The link is to this famous Patterson-Gimlin film of the creature. At the same time, a number of hoaxers were coming forward to admit they had faked the Bigfoot footprints that had been found and studied in various parts of the Northwest. Those who believe in the existence of Bigfoot argue that it is easy to tell the difference between faked and actual Bigfoot footprints. Millionaire Tom Slick was interested in cryptids and financed and participated in expeditions to find evidence of the Loch Ness Monster, the Yeti of the Himalayas, and the North American Bigfoot. He organized expeditions in the late 1950s and early 60s to find solid evidence of Bigfoot, but nothing was found, and these outings were critiqued as not following scientific methods. Krantz was a biological anthropologist who specialized in evolutionary anthropology and primatology. He began research on Bigfoot in the 1960s and insisted the cryptid existed, which marginalized him in American anthropology. In particular, After a great deal of study, he asserted that the Patterson-Gimlin film was not a hoax, but authentic. His brother was on the staff of the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., and accordingly Krantz was able to have his skeleton preserved and put on scientific display after his death, along with his beloved dog. One of Krantz's most impressive pieces of evidence for the existence of Bigfoot is the crippled foot cast found near Bossburg, Washington State in 1969. The cast of the cryptid's footprints show that the left foot was crippled and that the contours of the left foot reveal the creature had made adaptations to compensate for its crippled condition. Another piece of strong evidence that Bigfoot exists is casts made of tracks near Elk Wallow, Washington State in 1982. Like hands and fingers, feet have dermal ridges, and these casts have evidence of dermal ridges that would be almost impossible for hoaxers to replicate. On this slide, there's also a 1990 video by Freeman of what appears to be a Bigfoot walking in the woods near Elk Wallow. Jeffrey Meldrum is another physical anthropologist who does extensive research on Bigfoot. He has collected hundreds of casts of Bigfoot footprints, and he crusades to establish research on Bigfoot as an empirically grounded scientific endeavor. There are some who disagree, and others who agree. The link is to a short interview with Dr. Meldrum on his Bigfoot research. Jane Goodall is a world-renowned primatologist who has studied chimpanzees in Africa for decades. She stated in a radio interview that she is sure that the large hairy bipedal creatures seen in different parts of the world exist. So there is a faction of anthropologists, other scientists, and cryptozoologists who assert that research on Bigfoot is a scientific endeavor, and here are the main points of their argument. On the other hand, there are anthropologists, scientists, and scholars who assert that research on Bigfoot is a pseudoscience. Here's philosopher and science studies scholar Paul Thagard's definition of a pseudoscience. This is the model that skeptics use to define Bigfoot research as a pseudoscience. For example, anthropologist David Daegling wrote a book entitled Bigfoot Exposed, in which he critically analyzes the famous Six Rivers expedition that searched for Bigfoot. 4 men organized and participated in this expedition, including Jeffrey Meldrum, and they returned with what they asserted was evidence. However, Daegling critiques each piece of evidence from the expedition to the point where he concludes by defining Bigfoot research as a pseudoscience. In the end, we are logically left with 2 conclusions. One, that all the many thousands of sightings of Bigfoot are some kind of error or misidentifications. And 2, or Bigfoot exists, but we have yet to find some remains to scientifically validate its existence. So we are left with these explanations of Bigfoot that evade and dance around the question over whether it actually exists. But Daegling does state in his book that for those who have really seen Bigfoot, there are tracks with dermal ridges that provide the soundest proof that the cryptid is out there. And I'll conclude with a story a student told the class a few years ago when I was teaching this course. She narrated how her parents were driving on a winding country road in Utah during a winter day. The ground was covered with snow and there were forests on each side of the road. As they were cruising along, suddenly a huge Bigfoot came running across the road from the right. The student's father was driving and he slammed on his brakes, but the left front bumper of his car grazed the Bigfoot. The creature rolled over once, stood up, and then bounded into the forest to the left of the road. The student's parents said they never saw the world in the same way again after this encounter with Bigfoot.